Welcome to our peaceful journey through time. Tonight, we'll explore one of the most transformative periods in history, the Crusades. These were wars, yes, but also stories of ambition, faith, conflict, and change that shaped the course of civilizations for centuries. The Crusades were a series of religious wars fought between the Christians of Europe and the Muslims of the Middle East. Spanning nearly 200 years, they were battles for land, for power, and, above all, for faith. But the story of the Crusades is not just one of violence, it's a tale of the clash of civilizations, the rise and fall of empires, and the indelible marks left on culture and history. Let us begin our peaceful journey into the past, from the First Crusade to the final echoes of the Crusader states. The First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, in the year 1095. Pope Urban II called upon the Christian knights of Europe to take up arms and embark on a holy pilgrimage to the Holy Land, Jerusalem. This was not merely a religious journey but a war to reclaim Christian holy sites from Muslim control. The message was clear: God wills it. Thousands of knights, peasants, and pilgrims answered the call. Led by figures like Godfrey of Bouillon and Raymond IV of Toulouse, they embarked on a journey that would take them across vast, treacherous lands, through Constantinople and into Anatolia, where they encountered fierce resistance from the Seljuk Turks. The most significant battle of the First Crusade came at the Siege of Antioch. 4 months, the Crusaders fought to reclaim the city, a crucial stepping stone on the way to Jerusalem. Eventually, the Crusaders prevailed, though it was a victory earned with great sacrifice and bloodshed. After Antioch, the Crusaders marched south, reaching Jerusalem in 1099. The city, a sacred site for Christians, Jews, and Muslims, was defended by Muslim forces under the leadership of the Fatimid Caliphate. The Crusaders laid siege to the city for weeks, and on July 15, 1099, they breached its walls. The city was taken, and a brutal massacre ensued, with many inhabitants, both Muslim and Jewish, killed in the streets. The Crusaders had won Jerusalem, and Godfrey of Bouillon became the first ruler of the newly established Kingdom of Jerusalem. The Second Crusade, 1147 to 1149, the success of the First Crusade did not last long. By the middle of the 12th century, Muslim forces, led by the legendary Sultan Nur ad-Din and later Saladin, began to reclaim the lands the Crusaders had won. In response, the Christian West called for another crusade, the Second Crusade. Led by King Louis VII of France and Emperor Conrad III of Germany, the Crusaders set out to recapture territories lost to Saladin, particularly the city of Edessa. However, the Second Crusade was plagued by misfortune and poor leadership. The Crusaders were defeated at the Battle of Dorylaeum in 1147 and failed to make significant gains. The crusade ultimately ended in failure, and Saladin's forces continued to grow stronger, preparing for the final confrontation over Jerusalem. The Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, in 1187, Saladin achieved one of the most significant victories of the Crusades when he recaptured Jerusalem from the Crusaders. His triumph sent shockwaves through Christendom and set the stage for the Third Crusade. The Third Crusade is often remembered for the legendary figures who took part, including Richard the Lionheart, King of England, Philip II of France, and Frederick I Barbarossa, Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Together, they led a massive campaign to reclaim Jerusalem. However, the Crusaders' efforts were hindered by internal divisions, bad weather, and Frederick Barbarossa's tragic death during the march to the Holy Land. Despite these setbacks, Richard the Lionheart succeeded in winning several key victories, including the capture of the coastal city of Acre and the signing of a truce with Saladin in 1192. Though the Crusaders failed to retake Jerusalem, they secured access to the city for Christian pilgrims, which was seen as a partial victory. The Fourth Crusade, 1202 to 1204. The Fourth Crusade is one of the most infamous in history, not for its failure to reclaim Jerusalem but for the catastrophic diversion that led the Crusaders to sack Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, in 1204. Originally, the goal of the Fourth Crusade was to invade Egypt and weaken Muslim power in the region. However, the Crusaders were lured into an alliance with the Venetian Republic. They were promised ships in exchange for helping the Venetians capture the Christian city of Zara. Afterward, the Crusaders were convinced to attack Constantinople, ostensibly to place a rival claimant to the throne on the Byzantine Empire's throne. The sacking of Constantinople was brutal. The city, once a beacon of Christian civilization, was ransacked, and priceless treasures, including relics and works of art, were looted. The aftermath left the Byzantine Empire severely weakened, and the Crusaders' failure to accomplish their original goal left the Holy Land under continued Muslim control. The Fifth Crusade, 1217 to 1221. The Fifth Crusade was aimed at conquering Egypt, the power center of the Muslim world. Led by Pope Innocent III, the Crusaders believed that controlling Egypt would lead to the eventual recapture of Jerusalem. The Crusaders captured the Egyptian port city of Damietta along the Nile River in 1219, but their success was short-lived. Unable to advance further into Egypt, they became trapped by the Egyptian forces, and the crusade ended in failure when the Crusaders were forced to surrender in 1221. The Fifth Crusade, like many others, showcased the ongoing challenges the Crusaders faced in trying to hold onto land, navigate internal divisions, and fight against a unified and determined Muslim foe. The Sixth and Seventh Crusades, 1228 to 1229, 1248 to 1254. The Sixth Crusade was unusual in that it did not involve significant military action. Led by Frederick II, Holy Roman Emperor, this crusade was primarily diplomatic. Through negotiations with the Muslim Sultan Al-Kamil, Frederick managed to peacefully acquire Jerusalem in 1229, though the agreement did not hold long-term, and Muslim control of Jerusalem was restored soon after. The Seventh Crusade, led by King Louis IX of France, focused on Egypt once again. In 1250, Louis IX's army was defeated in the Battle of Farma, and the Crusaders were forced to surrender. The Seventh Crusade, like the Fifth, failed to achieve its ultimate goal of regaining Jerusalem. The Eighth Crusade and the final Crusader states, 1270 to 1291. The final Crusades of the Middle Ages were unsuccessful in reclaiming the Holy Land. The Eighth Crusade, 1270, again led by Louis IX of France, targeted Tunisia instead of Jerusalem. Louis IX's death during the campaign led to its abandonment. By the end of the 13th century, the Crusader states in the Holy Land were effectively eradicated. The fall of Acre in 1291 marked the last significant Crusader stronghold in the region. The Muslims, led by Calawan, successfully recaptured the city, and the Crusader presence in the Holy Land ceased. Conclusion: the Crusades were a defining chapter in both European and Middle Eastern history. They marked the peak of religious warfare and the beginning of a new era of diplomacy, empire building, and cultural exchange, though they failed in their ultimate goal of permanently securing Jerusalem for Christianity. They left lasting impacts on trade, culture, and the relationships between Christianity and Islam. As we reflect on these events, let us remember that history is not just a collection of battles, but a complex web of human stories, filled with triumph, tragedy, and lessons for future generations. May this journey through the past help you drift peacefully into sleep, with the echoes of history offering a soothing reminder of the passage of time.